The story begins by painting a vivid picture of Maria's life. She is a young woman in her early 20s, small but sturdy from years of physical labor. Her dark hair is often tied back in a practical braid, and her hands are calloused from tending to the farm animals and chopping firewood. She lives in a small, weather-beaten farmhouse on the edge of a dusty western town. The house is modest, a creaking wooden floor, faded curtains flapping in the wind, and a fireplace that struggles to warm the entire room. The farm itself is barely sustainable, with a few chickens, a couple of cows, and a tiny vegetable garden that requires her constant attention. Despite these hardships, Maria exudes warmth and determination, and her neighbors respect her for her courage and resilience. The narrative emphasizes Maria's isolation. Since the death of her parents several years ago, she has lived alone, her days filled with work and her nights with quiet reflection. She often longs for companionship and dreams of a life beyond the small farm. But she suppresses these desires, believing them unattainable. Her inner life is rich, filled with stories, memories, and an unwavering hope for kindness in a world that often seems harsh and unforgiving. One evening, as the sky darkens and clouds gather, the wind begins to howl, carrying dust and the scent of rain across the plains. Maria is finishing her chores when she hears a faint knock at her door. She hesitates. Unexpected visitors are rare. But she opens it to see a tall, rugged man with tired eyes and a small boy clinging to his hand. The man introduces himself as John, and the boy as Tommy. They have been traveling for hours and were caught in the storm with nowhere to stay. Despite the modest size of her home, Maria's empathy immediately compels her to help. She ushers them inside, wrapping Tommy in a warm blanket and starting a fire in the fireplace. She observes John closely. His clothes are worn and patched, his boots muddied from the journey. She assumes he is a traveling rancher or a laborer, someone struggling in the same way she does. Little does she know, John is a millionaire who prefers to travel incognito, wanting to experience life without the trappings of wealth. This ignorance adds a layer of dramatic irony to the story. The audience knows his true status, but Maria does not. Maria prepares a simple but hearty meal of bread, beans, and tea. The aroma fills the room, and Tommy's eyes light up with gratitude. Maria takes pleasure in his joy, feeling a rare sense of connection. She watches as John gently encourages his son to eat, carefully attending to him as any devoted father would. The small gestures, the way he adjusts Tommy's coat, the patience in his tone, the careful way he sets the table, reveal his character. Maria is subtly impressed by his manners and calm presence, though she attributes it to his upbringing or personal kindness rather than his wealth. As they eat, they share small talk. John tells stories of his travels across the plains, the people he has met, and the small acts of kindness he has witnessed along the way. Tommy, initially shy, begins to open up, describing his love for drawing animals and landscapes. Maria, touched by his innocence, shares stories of her own childhood and her dreams for a future beyond the farm. Through these interactions, the bonds of trust and familiarity begin to form. Maria feels a sense of joy she hasn't experienced in years. Her home, usually quiet and empty, is now filled with laughter and conversation. The storm outside grows fiercer, rain pelting the windows and wind rattling the shutters. John notices a draft near the boy's sleeping area and quietly moves to adjust the blankets. Maria, observing this, feels admiration stirring in her chest. She recognizes his attentiveness and thoughtfulness, though she still sees him as a man like any other. Kind, perhaps, but not extraordinary in any other sense. She has no clue that he is a man of immense wealth and influence. As the evening progresses, Maria and John talk privately while Tommy sleeps. They discuss work, dreams, and life's challenges. John is careful not to reveal his wealth, instead emphasizing shared human experiences like resilience, courage, and the value of compassion. Maria responds with stories of her daily struggles and small victories on the farm. She expresses a quiet hope that one day her life will improve, and John listens attentively, silently admiring her determination. In this dialogue, the seeds of a deeper emotional connection are planted, setting the stage for romance and mutual respect later in the story. Throughout the night, the narrative focuses on internal reflection. Maria contemplates her life, feeling a mixture of pride and satisfaction for having offered help to strangers. She realizes that her kindness has brought unexpected joy into her home. Meanwhile, John observes her quietly, noting her selflessness, her warmth, and the strength she exhibits despite her modest circumstances. He is struck by the contrast between her life and his own, recognizing that while wealth can provide comfort, it cannot cultivate the virtues Maria displays naturally. The chapter concludes with Tommy asleep in his small bed, comforted and warm, and Maria sitting by the fireplace, reflecting on the events of the night. She feels an emotional fullness, a mix of hope, satisfaction, and curiosity about the future. Unbeknownst to her, John feels the same way, already intrigued by her character and drawn to her kindness. The storm outside subsides slightly, symbolizing the temporary calm and the emotional warmth they have created together inside the farmhouse. The morning sun creeps slowly over the horizon, casting warm, golden light across the plains. Inside the farmhouse, Maria awakens to the gentle clucking of her chickens outside and the aroma of damp wood from the storm. The farmhouse is quiet, but there is a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a feeling of anticipation as if the events of the previous night are still lingering. Maria moves about her morning chores with the same diligence as usual, but her mind is not solely on her tasks. She is aware of John and Tommy, now asleep in the small guest area, and a sense of responsibility and curiosity tugs at her thoughts. As Maria tends to the animals, she notices small, peculiar details about John that she hadn't realized the night before. He has left the fireplace tidy, the blankets neatly folded, and there are no signs of carelessness in his handling of the farmhouse, behavior unusual for someone who had been traveling under harsh conditions. His boots, though muddy, are polished in a subtle way, and the way he carries himself, even while sitting quietly by the fire, speaks of a life where discipline and education were valued. Maria notices these things but dismisses them as luck or careful habits. She is focused on the chores, unaware that the true explanation lies far beyond what she imagines. Tommy wakes shortly after dawn, rubbing his eyes and stretching. Maria kneels to greet him, her gentle smile instantly easing his discomfort. She gives him a bowl of warm porridge and he eats eagerly, speaking softly about how safe he felt during the storm. His words tug at Maria's heart, reinforcing the feeling that her small act of kindness has made a meaningful difference in someone else's life. She doesn't yet realize the magnitude of what she's done. She simply knows that offering shelter felt right, and seeing Tommy smile is reward enough. John joins them at breakfast, sitting with ease and politeness that again strikes Maria as somewhat unusual for a cowboy. His conversation is measured, intelligent, and considerate, covering topics far beyond her everyday life of farm work and local news. He asks about her farm, her routines, and even inquires gently about her hopes and dreams. Maria is initially wary. Strangers rarely ask such thoughtful questions, but she soon warms to his sincerity. Their conversation flows naturally, filled with small laughter, teasing exchanges, and subtle observations about life. It is clear that John is not just kind but deeply attentive, noticing nuances in Maria's speech and behavior that even neighbors may overlook. As the morning progresses, Maria begins to notice inconsistencies in John's story, or rather, subtle hints that he may be someone of importance. He speaks knowledgeably about matters like horse breeding, cattle markets, and even finance, though he does so casually and without pride. He seems to possess a depth of education and worldly experience that doesn't fit with her initial assumption of a simple traveling rancher. Yet Maria doesn't question him directly. Instead, she files these observations away in her mind, curious but cautious. The tension here is critical. The audience senses that something extraordinary is hidden behind John's humble appearance, creating suspense. John, on his part, observes Maria's life with careful attention. He notes the small, persistent struggles she endures daily, the worn clothes, the patched boots, the small meals she prepares, and the exhaustion that shadows her face even during moments of laughter. He sees a life of resilience, self-sufficiency, and quiet strength, a life so different from his own world of wealth and privilege. Each detail deepens his admiration for her. He feels a mixture of awe and protectiveness, realizing that the simplicity of her existence has shaped a character of integrity, empathy, and courage. Unlike many people he has encountered in his life of privilege, Maria's virtues are not influenced by wealth. They are innate, hard-earned, and genuine. The morning scene continues with Maria fetching water from the nearby well, carrying heavy pails while the sun climbs higher. John offers to help and Maria hesitates, instinctively valuing her independence, but she allows him to take one pail, noticing that he carries it with ease yet without arrogance. His strength is impressive but understated, a contrast to many men she has known who would wield power or privilege as a tool of dominance. This small interaction further builds Maria's respect for him, even though she still underestimates who he truly is. Throughout the day, Maria's curiosity grows. She observes John performing small, precise tasks, tying knots expertly, adjusting the fireplace with mechanical skill, and handling livestock with confidence. These skills are practical and grounded, yet there is a subtle polish to his actions that hints at a life of opportunity and training beyond a simple rancher's existence. Maria's suspicions are mild at first, but the contrast between his demeanor and her expectations creates a quiet tension. The narrative emphasizes her perceptiveness and intelligence, showing that she notices details others might miss. Meanwhile, Tommy's presence adds warmth and lightness to the farmhouse. He draws pictures of animals and landscapes, proudly showing them to Maria and John. Maria encourages his creativity, feeling a connection not just to the boy, but to the familial bond he shares with his father. This father-son relationship introduces an emotional layer. Maria is drawn not only to John's character, but also to his role as a caring parent, imagining what it might mean to be part of a family herself. This element foreshadows romantic development while keeping the story grounded in realism and human connection. As evening approaches, Maria begins preparing dinner. She notices John watching her quietly, offering polite assistance when asked, but mostly allowing her space to work. His behavior is respectful, careful not to overstep boundaries, yet he seems increasingly attuned to her needs. Maria senses this attentiveness, feeling a combination of gratitude, curiosity, and a faint stirring of admiration. She still does not know that he is a millionaire, but the audience begins to anticipate the revelation, creating a sense of dramatic tension. During dinner, a subtle moment of conflict arises. Maria accidentally knocks over a bowl, spilling food onto the floor. She apologizes profusely, embarrassed, but John laughs gently, reassuring her that accidents happen. He cleans up the mess without comment, his actions highlighting both humility and respect. Maria feels relief and a growing sense of trust. In this scene, the story emphasizes the importance of character, empathy, and mutual respect while foreshadowing the eventual romantic connection between them. The day ends with a quiet moment by the fireplace. Maria reflects on her life, thinking about the kindness she has extended and received. She wonders who John truly is, feeling a vague sense that he is different from ordinary men. John, in turn, observes her with admiration, impressed by her resilience, intelligence, and genuine heart. The tension builds as both characters sense a bond forming, yet secrets remain unspoken. The storm of the previous night is now replaced by the calm of evening, a metaphor for the quiet but profound shift occurring in their lives. The morning after a second night at Maria's farmhouse begins with familiar routines. Maria tending to the animals, preparing breakfast, and checking the small vegetable garden. The farmhouse, still slightly damp from the earlier storm, feels alive with the presence of her unexpected guests. Tommy, now growing comfortable in this temporary home, helps feed the chickens, his small hands fumbling with the grain but with determination and delight. Maria watches him with a mix of fondness and curiosity. John moves quietly around the house, assisting subtly where needed, but never overstepping. There is a calm confidence in his actions, a sense that he knows exactly how to manage both the tasks at hand and the people around him. Maria has long admired his composure, but she still assumes he is simply a skilled cowboy, someone who has traveled extensively and learned to survive. The tension begins subtly. Maria notices an unusual object tucked into John's satchel while he is fixing a gate outside, a finely crafted pocket watch with intricate engravings, something she has never seen before. Her curiosity is piqued, but she doesn't comment, not wanting to overstep. Later, as John retrieves a letter from his satchel, Maria glimpses the envelope. Embossed with an elegant seal and written in a hand far more refined than any letter she has received in her life. Her heart skips a beat. Something about these items feels incongruous with the rugged, weathered persona John has presented. Maria's mind races. She begins to piece together subtle clues. The polished manners, the sophistication in conversation, and now these material hints. She feels a mix of awe, excitement, and unease. The woman who has lived a life of scarcity suddenly confronts the possibility that the man she has welcomed into her home is extraordinarily wealthy. This realization creates internal conflict. She admires him deeply for his kindness and humility, but she fears that knowing the truth may change the nature of their relationship, or even her own feelings. John, meanwhile, notices Maria's occasional glances at his possessions. He senses her curiosity but does not immediately reveal the truth. He is torn between honesty and the desire to see whether their connection is genuine, uncolored by wealth or status. In his mind, Maria's pure-hearted nature and her ability to treat him as a person, rather than a fortune, are extraordinary. This moment establishes dramatic tension. The audience knows that Maria is on the verge of discovering John's secret, and John is deliberately pacing the revelation to preserve the authenticity of their bond. As the day progresses, Maria's behavior subtly changes. She is polite, warm, and attentive, but there is a noticeable hesitation in her words and actions, a mixture of curiosity and self-protection. She wonders if John's kindness is influenced by his wealth, questioning whether her growing admiration and trust might be naive. These doubts are natural, reflecting her lived experience of hardship, where appearances often deceive. Tommy, oblivious to these internal conflicts, continues to bring light and joy to the farmhouse. He sketches pictures on scraps of paper, placing them proudly on the table. Maria smiles, finding comfort in the boy's innocence, yet she feels a subtle weight. The knowledge that their temporary household may soon be disrupted by truths too large to ignore. The narrative here highlights the contrast between childhood simplicity and adult complexity. The pivotal revelation occurs during a quiet moment. Maria, tending to laundry or sweeping the floor, notices John's brief absence and the subtle shimmer of something peeking from his satchel. On impulse, she opens it and discovers a set of papers and a bank document, proof of wealth, assets, and ownership far beyond anything she could have imagined. The discovery shocks her to the core. Her mind reels with questions. Why did he not tell her? Has every word, every gesture been influenced by his fortune? And yet she recalls the warmth, respect, and genuine care he has shown, qualities she knows cannot be bought. The revelation triggers a torrent of conflicting emotions: awe, gratitude, confusion, and a hint of fear. Maria steps outside, taking deep breaths to compose herself. The wind blows across the plains, the sun now high and piercing, almost as if to spotlight the enormity of the truth she has just uncovered. She reflects on the past days, the storm, the shared meals, the conversations with John, the laughter of Tommy, and wonders whether her admiration has been naive or if it has been, as she hopes, entirely genuine. When John notices her distant demeanor, he approaches cautiously. He senses the change and gently asks if something is wrong. Maria struggles to find words, her voice trembling as she confronts him about what she discovered. John, seeing her inner conflict, chooses honesty over evasion. He explains that he is indeed wealthy, an owner of large cattle ranches and properties, but that he prefers to live simply and travel incognito to experience life authentically. He confesses that he wanted to see whether kindness and connection could exist without the influence of wealth. Maria listens, her emotions a whirlwind. Relief floods her when she recognizes his sincerity, but lingering doubts remain. She has seen people deceive others in her life for personal gain, and the fear of being manipulated is natural. Yet she cannot deny the authenticity of his care, the warmth of his attention, his patience with Tommy, and the genuine respect he has shown her. This moment deepens their emotional connection, transforming trust into something more profound. The conversation leads to reflection on both sides. John admires Maria's integrity, her ability to remain grounded despite her hardships. He realizes that she treats people as equals regardless of wealth or status, a quality he finds rare and invaluable. Maria, in turn, begins to see John not just as a wealthy man, but as someone who values character above all else, someone who could genuinely love and respect her without influence from money or power. The outline concludes with a moment of quiet reconciliation and renewed understanding. Maria decides to continue welcoming John and Tommy into her life, albeit with cautious trust. John, relieved and moved by her response, feels a deepening admiration and emotional bond. The stage is now set for romance, personal growth, and the exploration of societal and emotional challenges that accompany the merging of two worlds. the humble life Maria has known and the privileged life John has kept hidden. The morning after the revelation begins quietly, with sunlight streaming through the farmhouse windows. Maria moves about with her usual determination, performing chores with the steady rhythm of someone accustomed to a life of hard work. But her mind is elsewhere. The knowledge of John's wealth lingers in her thoughts, not as a purely material concern, but as a question. How does one reconcile admiration for character with the sudden awareness of a life so different from their own? Tommy, blissfully unaware of the weight carried by the adults around him, runs about the farmhouse chasing a chicken or drawing in the dirt outside. His laughter is pure and unself-conscious, a reminder of the simplicity and joy that Maria has learned to cherish. Watching him, she feels a renewed sense of warmth but also a pang of worry. She wonders how this unexpected intrusion, first the storm, now John's true identity, will affect her daily life. Could she maintain the authenticity of her world with such a vast difference in social standing looming over her? John senses the shift in Maria's demeanor. He observes the subtle tension in her voice, the hesitant glances she casts when discussing daily tasks or plans. He recognizes the complexity of her thoughts, admiration mingled with doubt, gratitude with caution. Rather than confronting her forcefully, he chooses patience, understanding that trust cannot be demanded. It must be nurtured. In quiet moments, he helps with chores, offering support where needed but never taking control. Respecting the autonomy that has shaped Maria into the capable, independent woman he admires. The growing attraction between them is inevitable. During small shared moments, preparing meals together, tending to the animals, or simply sitting near the fireplace, emotional intimacy deepens. Maria notices John's attentiveness, the way he remembers small details, the way he engages with Tommy, and the subtle respect he shows her space and opinions. Each gesture strengthens her respect and emotional bond, even as questions about wealth linger. The narrative emphasizes the slow-burn nature of attraction. It grows organically from admiration and shared experiences rather than superficial charm. External pressures begin to manifest. News spreads in the small town that a wealthy man has been seen staying at Maria's farmhouse. Gossip and speculation arise. Neighbors, while outwardly polite, cast curious glances and some question Maria's intentions. These societal pressures reflect the realistic challenges of relationships across class divides in a tight-knit, judgmental community. Maria feels the tension keenly, torn between her desire to be honest about her life and her fear of judgment from neighbors who may not understand her connection with John. John, aware of the growing social scrutiny, faces his own dilemma. He wishes to protect Maria from gossip and preserve the authenticity of their bond. But he also struggles with the temptation to leverage his wealth to ease her burdens. He restrains himself, wanting their relationship to be based on mutual respect and genuine connection rather than material comfort. This restraint deepens Maria's respect for him, reinforcing the story's central theme. True worth lies in character and integrity, not wealth. A pivotal scene occurs as Maria and John work together to repair a small barn damaged in the storm. The physical labor requires teamwork, communication, and trust. Their shared effort becomes a metaphor for the growing partnership in their relationship. John admires Maria's strength and determination, while Maria is struck by John's patience, skill, and willingness to engage without condescension. Through this labor, their emotional connection is reinforced. Trust is slowly rebuilt and romantic tension becomes palpable. During a quiet evening, with Tommy asleep, they share a more intimate conversation by the fireplace. John carefully broaches his feelings, expressing admiration and deepening affection. Maria, hesitant, acknowledges her own feelings, but voices concerns about trust, societal perception, and the complexities introduced by wealth. The dialogue is rich with emotion. Vulnerability, honesty, and hope intertwine. This scene highlights the careful balance between attraction and caution, illustrating how meaningful relationships require communication, empathy, and mutual understanding. The narrative also explores Maria's internal reflection. She recalls her past struggles, the loneliness, the financial hardships, and the constant effort required to maintain her modest life. She questions whether she is ready to navigate a relationship complicated by vast social differences. Yet she cannot ignore the genuine care and respect John has shown, nor the joy she feels in his presence. Her conflict is authentic and deeply human, illustrating the tension between desire, caution, and moral grounding. John, too, reflects on his position. He understands that Maria's wariness is not rejection of him personally, but a rational response to her experiences and circumstances. He admires her independence and the way she has maintained her dignity and values despite hardship. This awareness strengthens his emotional investment, fueling a desire not only to win her affection but also to support her in ways that honor her autonomy. A turning point comes when Tommy falls ill with a minor fever. Maria, experienced in caring for others, takes charge, but John's quiet attentiveness and careful handling of the situation leave a lasting impression on her. She witnesses the depth of his empathy, the instinctive care he shows for his son and for her, and the patience that underlies his every action. This incident reinforces the foundation of trust and admiration between them, proving that wealth is irrelevant when it comes to genuine human connection. The evening concludes with a quiet, unspoken acknowledgement of mutual affection. Though neither confesses outright, gestures like shared smiles, subtle touches, and lingering glances communicate emotions that words cannot capture. The tension is balanced. Romantic interest grows while societal pressures and personal doubts remain, creating a compelling push-and-pull dynamic. The morning after Tommy's fever has broken begins with calm sunlight filtering through the farmhouse windows. Maria, exhausted but relieved, reflects on the past week. The storm, the arrival of her unexpected guests, the revelation of John's wealth, and the emotional roller coaster that followed. Each moment has challenged her assumptions, her trust, and her courage. She feels stronger for it, yet there is a quiet tension. The knowledge that life will never return to exactly what it was before John arrived. John, equally contemplative, senses the fragility and depth of the bond that has developed. He has observed Maria's resilience, her capacity for empathy, and her unwavering moral compass. Her strength does not intimidate him. Instead, it draws him closer. He is determined to honor her independence while expressing his feelings fully, knowing that any attempt to impose his wealth or influence would compromise the authenticity of their connection. The story intensifies as both characters face external challenges. Neighbors, previously curious, begin to gossip more openly about the millionaire staying at Maria's farmhouse. Some question her motives, others express envy or suspicion, and a few extend offers of assistance tinged with condescension. Maria experiences a blend of embarrassment, frustration, and determination. She must navigate these social pressures while maintaining her dignity and protecting Tommy from undue stress. John, recognizing the unfairness of the scrutiny, proposes a solution. Rather than attempting to shield Maria entirely, he encourages her to confront the situation on her own terms, offering support without overstepping. He demonstrates patience, respect, and confidence in her ability to handle the challenges. This approach strengthens Maria's trust, showing that John's intentions are rooted in genuine care rather than wealth or control. Their partnership becomes evident. They are equals in navigating both domestic and societal challenges. Amid these tensions, romantic and emotional stakes reach their peak. John and Maria share intimate moments that reveal the depth of their feelings. Perhaps it's a quiet evening on the porch, the golden light of sunset casting long shadows across the plains, where their hands brush as they discuss their dreams for the future, or a shared meal in the farmhouse kitchen, laughter and subtle teasing bridging the gap between vulnerability and joy. These moments are significant because they balance romance with realism. Their bond is built on trust, shared values, and emotional intimacy, not external circumstances or wealth. Tommy, as the emotional glue of the family unit, plays a pivotal role in cementing their connection. His laughter, trust, and unguarded affection remind both Maria and John of the stakes. Their choices affect not only themselves but also the boy's sense of security and happiness. John's attentive care for Tommy reinforces Maria's admiration and deepens her emotional investment, while Maria's nurturing presence strengthens John's commitment to creating a stable, loving environment. A key turning point arrives when Maria finally confronts her own fears and doubts. She reflects on the journey of the past days, the kindness John showed during the storm, the patience he displayed in helping her with chores, and the genuine love he demonstrated for Tommy. She realizes that his wealth, while significant, does not define him. It is his character, integrity, and emotional honesty that matter most. With this clarity, Maria embraces both the emotional and practical possibilities of a future with John, confident that her independence and values will remain intact. John, witnessing Maria's growth and acceptance, also confronts his own fears. He recognizes the importance of humility, respect, and patience in love. He understands that true connection cannot be rushed or forced. By giving Maria the space to reconcile her feelings, he proves that wealth is not a tool for influence but a resource to create stability and opportunity for those he cares about. Their relationship now moves from tentative admiration and attraction to full emotional commitment. The climax unfolds with a symbolic act that binds their lives together. Perhaps John offers to invest in the farm, not to take control but to secure Maria's independence, improve living conditions, and ensure Tommy has a safe environment. Maria, initially hesitant, accepts only on her terms, negotiating how the resources will be used to maintain autonomy and dignity. This act represents the ultimate fusion of their worlds: wealth used responsibly and respectfully, love built on equality and mutual respect. Romance reaches its emotional peak as they openly acknowledge their feelings. In a quiet, heartfelt moment, John confesses his love, not as a wealthy benefactor, but as a man deeply moved by Maria's courage, integrity, and heart. Maria reciprocates, her words tempered by honesty and gratitude, acknowledging the journey they've shared and the challenges they have overcome together. Their commitment is mutual, grounded in shared experiences, respect, and a deep emotional bond. The story concludes with resolution and hope. Maria's farmhouse, once modest and struggling, now reflects the care, love, and stability of a growing family. Tommy, secure and joyful, serves as a reminder of the family they are building together. The couple faces the future with confidence. Wealth no longer a source of tension, but a tool to support their shared life, while values, character, and love remain the true foundation.